Hello adventurers, my name is Chance, welcome to my Spellbook, and thank you so much for tuning into the 47th episode of our background series. Today we're going to be going over the Simic Scientist, which is found in the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, so it's packing some real heat. And in addition to that, this is the background that more or less replaces the Sage. Ultimately, it comes down to the DM and individual player input as to whether or not they decide to go with it. But yeah, it's pretty much better as far as most people seem to think, self included, by the way. In any case, if this is the first video you're watching, or if you'd like to check out all of the backgrounds available in D&D 5e, click on that little eye icon up in the top corner there, or watch the video to its completion and click on one of the little end cards at the end there, and you'll get to see the full playlist. Very nice. In any case, let's move on by first checking out its description. Imagine a perfect world, one in which nature and civilization exist in harmony, adapted to each other. One in which life is shaped to match its environment, and the environment is shaped to match life. That is the world you've been trying to grow in the laboratories of the Simic Combine. Essentially, you are a experimenter and a researcher, and you've done some, or you may have done some, rather questionable things in the pursuit of perfection. Now let's take a quick look at their expanded spell list. You'll see as cantrips, they gain access to Acid Splash and Druidcraft. At first level, they gain Detect Poison and Disease, Expeditious Retreat, and Jump. At second level, they'll have access to Alter Self, Enhance Ability, and Enlarge Reduce. At third level, they'll gain access to Gaseous Form, Water Breathing, and Wind Wall. At fourth level, Freedom of Movement and Polymorph. And at fifth level, Creation. In terms of standouts, I'm a massive fan of Detect Poison and Disease. Alter Self is interesting as well, depending on the DM and what they let you get away with. Enlarge Reduce is also good for some good fun. Gaseous Form is undeniably a fantastic spell in general, especially when you're in a pinch. Wind Wall is interesting. Polymorph is fantastic. So in terms of standouts, Detect Poison and Disease, Alter Self, Gaseous Form, and Polymorph are going to be the cream of the crop for me. Who knows, you may differ a little bit, but for the most part, all these spells are half decent at the very least. Now let's take a quick moment here and go over its mechanics. Under skill proficiencies, you'll gain both Arcana and Medicine. Arcana is fairly useful in most campaigns, however, mileage may vary based on how much magic is within the society itself. And Medicine I find to be incredibly useful in general, especially when it comes to stabilizing. Under Languages, you'll gain 2 of your choice. And you actually have quite a bit of equipment. I kind of had to generalize in terms of the text, but I'll give you the full rundown here. So you gain a Simic Insignia, a set of Commoner's Clothes, a book of research notes, an ink pen, a bottle of squid ink, a flask of oil made from blubber, a vial of acid derived from digestive juices, a vial of fish scales, a vial of seaweed, a vial of jellyfish stingers, a glass bottle of unidentified slime, and a belt pouch containing 10 GP. You get a lot of stuff, a lot of it's really cool, a lot of it has a lot of flavor, and I could see some interesting uses for a lot of it, and some interesting plot hooks. If I were to have a character that would pick the Simic Scientist background, I would have the slime develop sentience and turn into something of a mascot for the party. I think that would be pretty cool. In any case, let's move on to its feature here. This one is called Researcher and acts much as the Sage feature of the exact same name. When you attempt to learn or recall a magical or scientific fact, if you don't know that information, you know where and from whom you can obtain it. Usually this information comes from a Simic laboratory or sometimes an ISIT facility, a library, a university, or an independent scholar or other learned person or creature. Knowing where the information can be found doesn't automatically enable you to learn it. You might need to offer bribes, favors, or other incentives to induce people to reveal their secrets. Essentially the exact same as researcher in the Sage background. In terms of notable differences, there really aren't any. It only adds a little bit of flavor text regarding bribes, favors, and incentives. The DM still has full purview of what you can and cannot find. However, most mundane things are going to be relatively easy for you to seek out. As with the Sage background, the biggest benefactors of this are likely going to be wizards, or really anyone with a ritual caster background, as this will likely enable you to find the spells you are looking for in a relatively quick and timely manner. To be fair, most spells you're going to be looking for are likely going to be low level, and most magic shops are likely to sell them. However, who knows, there may be one in particular you're looking for, or you might not want to go to a shop for it. I don't know, kind of depends on circumstances of the time, I suppose. In any case, let's move on now to its suggested characteristics. Taking a look at the personality trait, I can't wait to see what I become next. This is likely going to be a Simic scientist that experiments on themselves quite frequently. Under ideal, superiority, my vast intellect and strength are directed towards increasing my sway over others, and this will take you towards the evil alignment. Bond, the laboratory where I did my research contains everything that is precious to me. And flaw, I'd rather have an embarrassing mutation than do everything I can to keep hidden. This is really interesting, especially if you go with the Simic hybrid race, which is one of the more complicated races existing in 5e currently. Very cool with a ton of flavor and options attached to them, arguably the most customizable race in the game as of yet. Outside of that, another very cool way to involve these traits in your character, this is especially good if you're a spellcaster, is to just flavor your spells in a way where they are produced from you by organic means. For example, Acid Splash might be just throwing up and projectile vomiting or something to that effect. Expeditious Retreat might be you adapting your legs a little bit differently, stuff like that. It's actually the way that the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica book actually recommends a lot of these spells take place, which is rather interesting. That being said, let's move on to my personal thoughts on it. I like the Simic scientist. I can understand why a lot of people wouldn't. However, that being said, taking a look at their extended spell list, it's not particularly amazing, at least not relative to a lot of the other backgrounds we've covered thus far. It's probably one of the few I'm likely to actually support in the game regardless. Outside of that, its feature is really, really good and really, really useful. However, the Sage gets access to the exact same one, so it's not really a viable reason to pick the Simic Scientist. Its equipment, though, is fantastic, maybe even the best equipment we've gone over in the game, maybe with the exception of the Haunted one, now that I'm actually thinking about it. But in terms of raw flavor, the Simic Scientist will definitely not leave you disappointed, and it might lead to some interesting interpretations of several spells and abilities you may gain along the way. In any case, let me know what you think of the Simic Scientist down beneath, and let me know how you would flavor these spells to reflect actual physical mutations taking place in your body. In any case, and if you have any cool stories as well, let me know. Also, if you'd like to gain access to a free one-shot, please use code WELCOME over at the Guild Hall to gain access to it. And of course, I hope you all have a great day, and as always, happy adventuring, everyone.